Australian Commandos, the long-awaited Part 4. Let's go.
Having endured the physical strain of selection, the Commando reinforcement cycle will see the remaining candidates trained in highly specialised close combat skill sets, such as these Commandos, who are about to carry out a full mission profile. If the new trainees survive the 10-month reinforcement cycle, they too will participate in strategically planned and precisely executed scenarios.
So once we've selected an individual with the right attributes, then we start to build on that individual's skills. So we will put them through our reinforcement cycle, give them all of the skills that we require them to do when they arrive in the unit.
Now, trying to compare these guys to something in the U.S., help me out here, the viewers in Australia. So we got the SAS, I get it. How do the Commandos compare to, say, the U.S. Army Rangers? Do they compare? Because it seems like these guys have definitely got a broader skill set. Let me know in the comments.
And some of those courses are also particularly tough.
Tonight, the culmination of a particularly complex training exercise will take place. After days of planning, the 2nd Commando Regiment will carry out a highly realistic exercise that's been designed to examine their skills in a challenging environment. Airlifted by an arsenal of battlefield-ready Blackhawks, the Commando force element are transferred to the backwater docks of a harbour and primed for execution of a highly orchestrated activity. Each member of the unit has received orders and specific instructions pertaining to their mission. To successfully achieve the objective, teamwork will be paramount. There are a number of assets being coordinated during these complex assaults. The Commandos must work closely together and maintain communications at all times.
You can imagine being a young trainee commando where you're trying to do a ballet like this, right? Orchestrate such an operation. There's a lot of stress. It's hard enough to get 3 or 4 guys to do anything on time. So you got a lot of moving parts here in this training. I'm not a commando, but I can imagine there's lots of room for mess-ups.
They've been instructed to investigate a suspicious vessel by the docks, with any members on board to be detained and handed over to the police. Further orders have been given to infiltrate a passenger terminal to rescue and recover hostages. The Commandos await further instructions. Intelligence has indicated that terrorists in the training activity are holding hostages inside, and once they've located the threat, they are under orders to capture them and recover the hostages.
Now, how often are the Commandos involved in domestic terrorism? Is any of the Australian military involved in domestic terrorism? So here in the States, you know, it'd be the FBI or another organization, typically not the military, at least as we see it in the news media. You guys let me know.
Commandos are trained to provide precise and discriminate actions, and to only use the minimum necessary level of force to achieve the mission. In a short period, the Commandos have disabled the hostile threat, suffering 0 casualties. The Commandos capture and immobilize any remaining threat terrorists that have survived the firefight. If the Commando candidates can carry out missions as well as this force element, the instructors will be satisfied. As it was,
they're definitely operating in a big group from the looks of this. Looks like there's a platoon-size element attacking this objective here. which obviously is different than, say, the SAS, different group, different organization, I know. But just looking at it, it seems like quite a few guys when they attack this objective to get the bad guys.
On selection, performance of the candidates during the reinforcement cycle is weighted by their demonstration of the commando attributes. Every decision they make is judged accordingly, so their actions before, during, and after combat training activities are critical to their placement within the unit. For the candidates, their opportunity to prove their worth as potential commandos in a realistic combat scenario is about to begin. The months of excruciating preparation is yielding results. Having survived the unsympathetic rigour of both screening and selection, this small group have begun the reinforcement training cycle and will continue as candidates. For some of them, they will eventually qualify as a commando. While there will be much hardship to come before they can earn the coveted commando beret, there is already a solid foundation of honour, mateship, respect and trust to support the challenges ahead.
I think at this point, unless there's some significant weapons violation, you just become a total turd. You should make it through, obviously, except for injury. I can't imagine you making it this far, this much of an investment with respect to the Australian government and them dumping you, unless you're just an absolute shit show.
It's trust within yourself that you're going to do, what you say you're going to do, what you can do. It's trust in the guy next to you. It's trust in the training, trust in the, the hierarchy, the decisions they make. It is a massive part of this whole job.
Like the somber music to the guy doing pull-ups. I'm not sure if it's a funeral procession or he's about to fall off the pull-up bar.
As the sun rises over the Special Forces Training Centre, a small group of young Australians are preparing to undertake the next phase of commando training. Having survived the notoriously difficult commando selection course, the candidates have now been admitted into the commando reinforcement training cycle.
So once we've selected an individual with the right attributes, then we put them through our reinforcement cycle and they will come out the end of that cycle as a highly skilled commando operator.
What I want you to do is, for team one, so the first team in, you'll start on this obstacle here.
A 10-month series of complex and challenging courses designed to qualify candidates in the skills required to operate as an effective commando.
Simply go over that.
They are physically and mentally tough. They are masters of the basic skills required of soldiers in marksmanship and fieldcraft. And then they are also well trained in a range of advanced skills that give them the capability to operate beyond the scope of conventional units.
Peak physical fitness is one of the many critical factors in achieving operational success, so a great deal of time and effort is devoted to achieving and maintaining it.
As an instructor, once the guys have gone through the selection, we've got a pretty good idea of where their strengths and...
Yeah, once you're in good enough shape, then you can pile through these complicated long O courses. I'm sure they do it beforehand, but as you can see from looking at it, it's like a realistic O course. Pallets, hard stuff to get over. You're not getting babied on this thing. I don't know if they ran this. I didn't see it in the first part of the video, but it's probably a couple miles long. So we're getting PT in, but it's not going to be boring running 10 miles singing cadence.
Throughout the rest of the reinforcement cycle, it's about building upon those strengths and working on their weaknesses to balance them out and make them an effective commando.
A commando must be self-disciplined. Maintaining peak fitness requires daily physical training, both individually and as a team.
Well, in the initial phases of the course, so the initial first phase of the course, everything is individual. when they move on in the latter part of the course, it's more concerned about teamwork and judgment, but teamwork doesn't play a part in the individual phase as much.
Through there, and then do 2 laps with the first team back. Ready, go!
Just as they were at the applicant stage, the candidates are pushed to their physical limits in almost every task they're given. However, now the goal is to maximise their physicality as an effective team.
So we've got them jumping over the obstacles and then completing activities and doing it over and over again, testing their resolve at the same time.
Let me give you the pro tip. So what that means is if you're with a good group of guys and you got a slow person with you, it's going to suck. Looks like they're doing the O course as a team, which is awesome as long as you've got guys that are about the same level. If you get a guy that sucks at an obstacle, if you can help him, I guess that's going to be good. But in the O course, there's like 5 laps doing the thing. You know, an O course is nice by yourself because you master the obstacles that you suck at pretty fast because they'll slow you down. Now, I suspect all these guys are outstanding at it, but you're going to have some guys that are just rock stars and slide through the O course like water.
I want them to do it as fast as possible and at the same time get the job done correctly each and every time. Going through the obstacle course, it's both physically and mentally draining. You still need them to be able to think. We still need them to be able to continue on with the task at hand. They need to be able to show us good judgment, and they still need to be able to do all the other things that's required of them during this activity.
If they thought selection was tough, the next 30 weeks will serve to redefine their idea of resolve and commitment.
Straight through there, fellas. No, don't worry about it. Straight through there. We're up the hill. We want to go as fast as we can. We need to catch the next team.
But by making it this far, the candidates have proven that they possess the attributes necessary to become a commando in the Australian Defence Force. So it is now up to instructors to develop, train and refine these candidates into precision assets for offensive warfare.
Yeah, you throw on a kit doing the O course, obviously changes things a little bit. Now they're doing with nothing on. I'm sure they'll add something to it eventually, because the O course is great when you're just running around without a kit on, or at least without a rifle, right?
Provided that they avoid injury and remain totally committed.
Come on, fellas, catch them up.
All right, so less than a quarter will make it through the reinforcement cycle. So they're saying that 75% don't make it through the training. Now, I don't know if that's on the first pass, if that's just in total or what. But what I was reading right there is that they get through selection, but they don't make it through reinforcement training. So that adds another level of failure rate to this thing. I don't know what it gets to the total, but not easy.
Commando reinforcement is not just about physical conditioning. This important phase gives instructors the necessary opportunity to carve new and specialised abilities into a candidate's skill set, so that they may carry the knowledge forward into their career. Today, the candidates are going to be instructed in the employment of a range of heavy weapons.
The heavy weapons course is just another course that the candidates will go through on the reinforcement cycle. It introduces them into some of the crew-served weapons that we use within the command. Again, we assess the candidates on their trainability, their ability to pick up new skills, and then apply them throughout the rest of the reinforcement cycle. So the guys will fire the 50 cal machine gun, the Mark 19 grenade machine gun, and the 84mm Carl Gustaf medium-range anti-armour weapon.
The latest...
Now, this is the fun stuff, right? Making things go boom and bang. As long as you follow simple instructions, most of these things are idiot-proof, like point this way towards enemy, almost like a claymore.
Carl Gustaf M3 recoilless rifle is a relatively recent addition to the Army's heavy weapon inventory. In late 2011, the Army began introducing the new version of the Carl Gustav to deployed units in Afghanistan. Australian soldiers were being engaged by insurgents armed with rocket-propelled grenades at a distance of more than 500 metres. The new Carl Gustav M3 is a very capable and lightweight solution introduced by the Army to provide precision fire support and bunker bursting beyond 1,000 metres in range.
Now, I've never fired that weapon. For you guys that have, put it in the comments. How did that work on the battlefield with the bad guys with RPGs? I suspect not very well. Now, I don't know what the rules of engagement are when you could deploy that. If it's one guy shooting an AK-47 inside of a building, let me know. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, what we'll be engaging from here with the sub-cow, we'll engage at about 300-400 with the sub-cow. With the heat, we'll probably take it out to probably 440, 500.
Phase 1 and 2 down, phase 3.
The weapon can be fired from a standing, kneeling or lying position.
Reload.
Giving operators great flexibility in close combat. The M3 is normally operated by a two-person crew. One to carry and fire the weapon, the other for carrying ammunition and reloading.
Right, reference target 7, 350 metres, the one that's smoking. 350 metres and aim at the top of the target. It should hit. Righto.
The M72A6 66mm rocket launcher is also employed by Commandos for short-range engagements. However, it offers a lighter but less explosive alternative to the M3. Designed as an anti-armour weapon, the reduced weight affects the performance of the weapon, making it difficult for the trainees to operate accurately during their first attempt on the range.
As an instructor,
That's what I'm more familiar with. I've never seen the reloadable Carl Gustav before in my time. Sure they existed. I never used one or carried one. Looks like those are pretty accurate, though, because they're heavier, and the reloading element's great unless you're the one carrying the ammo, right?
it's your job to make sure that the trainees are enabled properly to understand that the weapon systems they are using are lethal. They have real and damaging effects, whether it's against an enemy or whether it's against a structure that later on is going to be used by civilians.
Instructors must rely on a decade of combat experience to assist the candidates in harnessing its deadly kinetic force.
Do you really think they don't know these are deadly? I don't know if he's saying that for television or what, but I think these guys know. They're not 16-year-old kids just came out of the mother's basement playing a video game. I don't know if I buy that.
Their accuracy needs to be developed rapidly, because in just a few months, the controlled environment of the range could be replaced by the unpredictable nature of direct combat operations overseas.
So number one, when you get broken up into your detail, you jump down behind the weapon. Number two, you'll be in the prone position on the left-hand side. We have an enemy platoon to our front at the moment.
During the early stages of the reinforcement cycle, the commando candidates are raw with ambition, but are mostly inexperienced in the application of advanced skills. Through toughness and resolve, they've survived the selection process. However, this final phase of training will require more than just muscle and determination to succeed.
Recognize the sounds of that one.
Over the next few months, they'll be trained in numerous core commando skills and highly specialised insertion and extraction techniques that ultimately enable the commando to offer a range of unique capabilities for the Australian Defence Force to employ.
You guys have heard me say that you get the 50 cal, right? There's the barrel, the receiver, and the tripod. You ever get tasked with carrying the receiver, which is a big hunk of long metal with pointy ends? It's no fun. I did that in infantry training. Great fun to shoot, sucky job to carry it.
These courses require dexterity, stamina, and intelligence. On every subject, they must qualify at a high level in order to be promoted into the unit and receive the Commando Beret. The heavy weapon course has been designed to increase the resourcefulness of candidates. While
I think he may be exaggerating a little bit. The 50 cal, once you get the hang of it, it's not terribly hard. I think there's other harder weapons to shoot. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Now, how accurate they have to be with it, I don't know. I think we shot at like old tanks and armored vehicles. Maybe they had some targets. I don't remember. It was a long ways out, and the thing does do some damage. You kind of typically walk them up because most guys aren't terribly accurate with the things, but they're good enough after you fire enough rounds.
Them to hardware commonly used in offensive operations.
The heavy weapons are just another tool that the guys get to use. Yes, it's good fun to be let loose behind one of them.
Yes, it is.
But anyone who's fired an 84 for any more than a dozen rounds will have their ears ringing and their body shaking. But it's an exhilarating experience, and the guys will get a lot out of it.
Gun 3 ready?
Gun 3 ready, gun 4. Gun 4 ready. Gun 3, gun 4, 30 rounds, normal rate, fire.
30 round fire.
So if you see, there's paddles on each side of the handle, right? And it's a good time to shoot. Now, we didn't have good ear pro. We had just the little crappy earplugs, the yellow ones you put in. That, of course, you wonder why a lot of veterans are deaf. That was in training. So it looks like these guys have good ear pro on, at least in training. Makes a lot of sense. Because the thing is loud. It's not as bad as, say, a 50 cal with a flash suppressor on it or a muzzle brake, like, say, a Barrett. That thing is loud as hell. It's a fun to shoot, but it's not as bad as the announcers making it seem.
Commandos are trained to have a broad knowledge of different weapon systems, not just to provide effective offensive indiscriminate force, but also so that they can confidently operate a foreign weapon system should they be separated from their own.
Stop edge.
Commandos have a variety of roles and tasks they need to perform. One tool just doesn't do everything. For that reason, we teach the guys as many weapon systems as we possibly can, which allows them to make a choice to pick the best tool for the job at hand.
Gun 4, down 3, click.
The M2 Browning 50 caliber machine gun has had a long history with the Australian Army and many other nations. Australian commando units primarily utilise this heavy weapon system for its long-range capabilities when employed in fire support or against threat vehicles and fortifications.
Called the Ma Deuce, right? They used to say you couldn't shoot personnel with it. That was against the Geneva Convention. So they'd tell us, hey, shoot at their pack, shoot at their helmet, shoot at their boots. You get the point.
Having had a long and continuous military service, the M2 Browning 50 cal machine gun is an important tool for the trainees to master. As such, instructors are particularly meticulous in assessing the safe and precise weapon handling throughout the length of the course.
We're still looking for a guy that can be taught the weapon system. We'll give him a day's worth of teaching, and then that next day he's out there live firing that weapon in a safe and a confident manner. We don't want guys that get carried away and are unsafe, because they'll be gone. But we really want a guy that can learn all these weapon systems, because within the completion of the reinforcement cycle in 3 months' time, they're going to be carrying one of these weapon systems or on a vehicle firing these weapon systems at the enemy.
The precise and discriminate operation of heavy weaponry goes hand in hand with the commando attribute of self-discipline.
Wow, they're beating this 50 cal to death here. It's not that big of a deal to shoot, not that hard to shoot. I would say it's pretty unlikely you're going to have a negligent discharge of the thing because, I mean, you know when you're not carrying it in your arms, you got to get a grip on the thing, the two paddles. So I'm not sure why they're spending so much time with the thing. It's about one of the easier weapon systems to shoot. Now, accurately, it's not terribly hard either. If you saw the sight on, it's like this, and you just gauge it based on the distance. I don't know. We'll see what he has to say. Let's keep going.
Responsibility that all Special Forces operators are trained to respect.
That's one of the other aspects of this job that makes it so rewarding, is that you have that responsibility not just to yourself, but to the guys around you, to the unit, and to the your country and the people on the ground that you're there to protect. You have that responsibility to do the best you can for those people and for the unit in that situation.
Finally, it's over the Ma Deuce.
The role of training physically and mentally robust soldiers to provide the next generation of commando operators is an important task within the Australian Defence Force. The attributes that have been required from the candidates are now more critical than ever, as the reinforcement cycle is an essential precursor to a commando operator becoming competent in the skills required to fulfil operational tasks. In order to develop a Special Forces soldier, instructors need to have access to world-class facilities where trainees can rehearse real-world scenarios in a contained environment. In Australia, the Special Forces Training Centre, or SFTC, facilitates the training framework and courses required to orchestrate the commando reinforcement cycle. SFTC was raised in 1999 as a training unit to support and develop Special Forces training. It has since grown significantly from humble origins.
If unsure about any aspect of the practice, we'll walk through in a second. I want you to ask, okay? So if you feel uncomfortable, you're not sure of anything, ask.
Taking on a role that will ensure the ongoing provision of highly complex...
Looks like a great facility. Looks very similar to the one that New Zealand has in their SAS training video. I guess that's probably a standard, like a long warehouse type thing with targets that move. I'm sure these guys will gain a lot out of it. Here's where you'd see the most negligent discharge if you're not careful. Even if you are, it's pretty easy if you have one mistake with your booger finger on the trigger to make an error in this process.
Training courses and training development required by commando units.
Entry and exit through here. There'll be no live firing between the 100 and the 50. We'll not start firing until we enter inside the actual range complex. So you'll start in pairs.
Today, the candidates are using the Special Forces training facility to carry out an urban operations simulation that's required unremitting focus on the attributes of self-discipline and judgment.
Okay, let's move through on tomorrow. So once you come through from the 100 metres, you'll split. And as you can see, remember I spoke about the range is actually mirror imaged on either side. As you can see, it's mirror imaged either side. We'll draw an imaginary line down the centre.
The objective is to clear a simulated enemy stronghold by using individual fire and movement techniques. In addition, they must utilise judgment to select the most appropriate urban cover as they assault.
Straight ahead, straight from here, direct line of sight through, you'll see a threat target with a white table in front of it. Does everyone see that? Okay, so this is firing point 1, that's target 1. So from here, you'll engage from a standing position, okay, supported, staying as low as possible. You've got 3 rounds to knock down that threat target.
Cover is a very interesting thing, especially when you watch these gamers. Take any cover you can, go to the best one, right? So maybe the back of a car, the door of a car. That's great cover. It's better than nothing, but a bullet will rip right through that. So the quicker you can get to something, even a cinder block wall is going to be better than a car door. That's what these guys are saying. You know, what's the best urban cover? Have you ever seen a bullet rip through a door of a car, the trunk area, a fender? Happens pretty quick. So the best urban cover, be curious to see what these guys tell them as they go through this training.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll do that dry, just to get everyone used to it. And then we'll do it live. This is all with your suppressors on. And then we'll slowly increase the complexity.
Instructors are still searching for individuals who have what it takes to become an Australian commando. Upon entry into the firing range, the candidates are immediately required to scan for any potential threat and then precisely engage the targets in accordance with the issued rules of engagement. This is a relatively basic practice for a fully qualified commando, but for those in training, their anxiety and inexperience add significant complexity to the task. Just turning up for the reinforcement cycle doesn't guarantee a commando beret at the completion of the course. In a real scenario, civilian hostages could be used as cover by threat elements, which leaves very little room for error in judgment. In such a scenario, a commando operator must assess, aim, and precisely engage the target within a few seconds.
I would say if you think about a good basketball team or a football team, if you've done it 100 times, you look pretty good. If you've done it 1,000 times, you don't even have to think about what the other players are doing, right? That's where you get the experienced operators, and these guys are working on it. But you only have so many reps, right? So you could take a traditional army, a regular army soldier, no CQB, but these commandos are going to do it over and over, so they're getting more reps. That's going to make the big difference, especially in the formative stages where you got to catch on quick so you don't have the reps under your belt.
It is only those who can fully absorb the training, who can replicate, demonstrate, and adapt what they've been taught to achieve a specific goal, that will be considered competent for tactical operations. In order to qualify as a commando, the candidates will need to be precise and discriminate during their urban combat marksmanship assessment.
You never realize how loud that is until you're inside of a building, not to mention at night. During the day, you don't see the muzzle flash as much. During at night, your night vision can totally get shot if you're not used to that. There's a difference when you start shooting indoors, the amount of noise, concussion, and muzzle flash. If somebody's just used to outdoors, there's something to that.
In order to graduate as a qualified Australian commando, jumping out of planes is a mandatory skill to be mastered.
If you like part 4, put part 5 in the comments and take a look at these other videos next to me, and I'll see you there.